Holy smokes, you guys. I just saw Paget's response to the article, not the official Washington Post article, but like the hit piece criticizing the Mississippi UBI experiment. And man, oh man, she killed it. Here is the 9 to 10 minute clip of her talking about it. And Mr. Anthony Brian Logan, if you had it, okay, honestly, watch this clip instead of my 40-minute long butt talking about. I mean, I wish you watched that too. But if you had to choose, watch this. Okay? Thanks, guys. 안녕하세요. Or no. 안녕. 사랑해요.
So also, I thought this was really cool and interesting. The Washington Post, right? So they are owned by Amazon, Jeff Bezos. They actually did a piece on how in Mississippi there was a program giving low-income mothers a year of universal basic income, $1,000 a month, no strings attached. And they did a pretty fair piece on it. You know, so they were giving $1,000 a month to these women. And I think the takeaway from it was that, okay, so at first, some of these women talked about their gift-filled Christmases and sported new hairstyles. Some said they took a sick day for the first time. They began paying off overdue electricity bills and high-interest loans. And then someone says, I blew all of it, Gray recalled. It only took a weekend. Most of the other women said the same thing. In a month, nearly all of the money had vanished. The situation exposed a truth about poverty. The women knew how to make minimum wage paychecks stretch, Johnson said, but they had little experience with discretionary income. Okay, so I want to make a point here that, this is going to be, this is just going to be part of the result of some of the people getting $1,000 a month, right? They're not going to necessarily know what to do with it. But let me also say this. They are spending it in the community. If you look at this, right, they're paying off overdue electricity bills, important. They're taking a sick day for the first time, also important. They're giving gifts. They're going to the hairstylist. Like it's actually pumping money back into the economy. So people might be like, oh, they're just wasting it and whatever. But I actually think that this is just proof that it is going back into the economy. Obviously, it would be better if they were a little more educated on how to make it benefit them in the most optimal way for their lifestyles. But then it says, the discussion at the shop exposed another truth for the women. Receiving money would not be enough on its own to lift them out of poverty. If they were going to save anything, the women said they would need a little more guidance and support about how to do it. Johnson set them up with a financial advisor who taught them about savings accounts, interest rates, and building credit. Soon, the women began sharing small victories. One woman used the extra money to take time off and finish community college. So cool. Some sent their children to day camp. So awesome. One woman filled her gas tank to drive her children to see their grandfather in Pennsylvania. The children had never met him. At the end of 6 months, none of the women reported using an emergency lender. Nearly all of them said they had enough money to buy school supplies, when fewer than half said that before. They reported cooking more balanced meals, visiting the doctor, and attending church more often. This is incredible. Okay. So, here's the thing, is that what we're seeing is that it is having the effect that Yang said it would have, right? So it is actually improving their lives. Like they're actually using this to spend more time with family, to invest in the right kinds of foods. Like that's exactly what Yang is saying. And so this was an amazing case study actually being done. And it clearly shows that they just had a better quality of life after this. So I don't know. I thought this was a hugely successful sort of argument for UBI from our perspective, right? Pumping more money back into the economy, economy stimulation, and also just improving the lives, improving the fulfillment and happiness of individuals, right? In whatever that means for them. So yeah, I thought this was great. And it was interesting that it was a Washington Post article, even though the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, as you guys saw, some of you guys tweeted this to me, then the Washington Examiner said Andrew Yang's free $1,000 per month welfare scheme was tried in Mississippi and the results were not a surprise. Okay, let me just point out one very obvious thing here. Just one very do you notice this? Do you notice this huge banner? Who's paying for that? Who's paying for that? Harris's campaign, maybe? So is this title, is this piece really that surprising? And can you really take it seriously? It's literally being paid by Kamala Harris's campaign, okay? Literally. So basically, they took this Washington Post article and they picked and choose what they wanted to share, right? So of course they talked about how they really framed it in a negative way. I blew all of it. It only took a weekend. Then they were asked if they were going to hand them the next check. Wow, it's almost as if people who are given a bunch of money without having earned it and without any conditions attached to it feel less of a sense of responsibility in how they use it. Okay, like they were clearly just picking and choosing the worst parts of that article. And we have to take into account the fact that obviously UBI will help solve poverty. But another big reason for UBI was improving the lives of people. And that didn't necessarily mean, oh, now I'm going to have like an amazing job within 6 months. No. I mean, that is a ridiculous standard, right? Because they're saying the story went on to say they were largely clueless about saving money, using banks, and developing good credit. For that, they needed more guidance and support. After 6 months, the number of women in the group who were working hadn't changed. 15 had been employed at the start and 15 remained employed at the end. For them to like take this in isolation and not look at the bigger picture is basically not good journalism. It's not good reporting, right? Because firstly, they don't recognize that Andrew Yang, part of his whole proposal is to offer free financial support. Yes, he has that in his proposals. Please check out yang2020.com. He's offering people free financial guidance, advisory. So even Andrew Yang's proposals cover this issue, right? And they're also not talking about the effects this had on, their lives, their family lives, as we saw that some of them said, hey, I used it to pay for gas so that I could drive my children over to meet their grandfather for the first time. Or I used it to send my child to like daycare. Like, how is that not an acceptable use of $1,000 a month? I don't understand how you can take away the value of that. I think that's incredibly valuable. I think what we saw in this Washington Post article was only more proof of the value of UBI in ways that Andrew Yang is talking about, right? It's not just about your earning power. It's about your quality of life. It's about how you define purpose and meaning in your own life. And getting a floor to stand on is going to help you do that. It's going to give you more time to do that, right? It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, now I'm going to go out and get a better job. No, some people will do that, but it's all up to the individual. So, you know what? I thought that the Washington Examiner, this piece is just absolute crap. It is so biased. I mean, you can't take... Here's the thing, guys. If you see a banner for a candidate being plastered on the top of an article, you can't take it seriously. Like, you just can't. Like, I see this and I'm like, okay, shut down. Shut down. Yeah, you can't tell me your opinion on any other candidate or even Harris as a candidate either. So, yeah, go screw yourselves. And then this was great. So USA Today, they reported on how Stockton, it's a small town in California, is testing out this universal basic income, basically giving $500 a month to residents of Stockton, California. And again, we see positive effects, right? This person says she spends the rest, so she uses 150 of it to pay for her cell phone and another 100 to pay off her dog's veterinarian bills. She spends the rest on her 2 grandsons now that she can afford to buy them birthday presents online and let them get the big bag of chips at 7-Eleven. Okay, maybe that's not the greatest thing. Maybe you should up that to like some apples or something. But anyway, she says, I would never have been able to do that. I thought it was just the coolest thing. I like it because I feel more independent, like I'm in charge. I really have something that's my own. Like, that is amazing that now she feels empowered to give back to her family, to pay for bills for her like veterinarian bills. And then you go down here. Okay, so the 31-year-old Stockton native and construction worker is married and has 3 children, ages 13, 8, and 4. He said he didn't see enough of his children when he worked 6 days a week to pay the bills. That changed when he started getting $500 a month. Now he only works 1 Saturday a month. He uses the other Saturdays to take his kids to the amusement park and ride bikes with them in the park. It has made a huge difference. Just being able to spend more time with the wife and kids, it brings us closer together. And this is a more accurate representation of the effects of UBI in a sense, because everyone's getting it in this town. And what are people doing? They're spending more time with their family. They're investing more into their family. Like, that's exactly what Andrew Yang is talking about. And to sort of discredit the positives of that is basically kind of just overlooking the purpose of UBI. It really is. So I don't know. I just think that, the fact that people are trying to smear him in different ways, I think is actually just a good thing, because they see that he is someone that, is actually going to threaten the system, and he is already doing it. Like, he is already doing it. Already people are talking about UBI. I don't know if you guys saw, but The View, Whoopi Goldberg again goes to Bernie, and she's like, why aren't you also proposing this universal basic income? Like, why aren't we going to see the money in our hands so that we know where it's going? It just gets lost in all these programs. So he is really changing the conversation in a really, really, really big way. And I love how these old institutions are really they're just uncomfortable with it because they don't know what the effects it'll have on them, because they've flourished under the old ways. So they're really trying to attack him. But he's already making a difference, and obviously if he's president, it's going to be amazing. But it's going to make people question a lot of the perspective that we've basically been having when it comes to how we live our lives, what's the purpose of our lives, what is our value as human beings. He's bringing all of that to the table, and he's making everyone question that. And I think that's why Yang Gang loves him so much, because we see the beauty and the necessity of that shift in mindset. And then these old institutions who flourished under the old kind of mindset, they're scared, because they're like, I don't know what this is going to mean for me. And maybe they should be scared. Maybe that's not a bad thing, and the more and more they try and keep him down with this kind of like horrible coverage, the more and more they're going to be exposed by other people rising up.
So, as you saw, pretty good stuff, right? Yeah, that's why we're all subscribed to Paget. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.